Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. Now that we've got the walls and the ceiling and the door in the camper shell, I think the next thing we should do is put in some lights so I can see what we're doing for the rest of the build. So let's talk about lights. There's a lot of different options out there on what you can use for lights, but I think we can agree most people are going to use LEDs. I've been using this type of light in previous employment for probably 5 years. It's an aluminum extrusion. You stick this to the ceiling and inside it you stick a strip of LED lights. Now these lights are what's called RGBW. And that means they have red, green, blue, and white LEDs. And that's a key difference from the least expensive of these, which will be RGB. Now, with light and this type of light strip, if you combine a red, green, and blue, you end up with basically a white light. But it is visibly different from the light you get from a white LED. So I'd recommend, if you're planning on going this route, instead of getting the RGB, which is basically the cheapest end you can go with the RGBW. So what I've done to start with is I've marked out the center line on the roof with a couple of pieces of tape. These pieces of tape have a mark at 39.5 inches from the back wall and every 39.5 inches forward, because that's the length of the LED tracking that I'm going to be installing. One little tip that I will give if you're laying out items on your ceiling, when you're trying to find your center line, I know the width of this wall and I know half of that is going to be my center line. But further down this way, because I'm just following a wall that is kind of floating, it's possible for that width to vary slightly. So don't just take a measurement off of one wall and use it all the way down. Take a measurement off of both walls and find your true center before you start doing any of the layout. Another thing to keep in mind when you're buying these LED strips is the accessories that they come with. These ones that I've purchased come with the male half of the plug that connects to the light strip. They come with a jumper that allows you to splice two strips together. I won't be using those. They come with some clips that you can double-sided tape to a wall or a ceiling, and it it supports the strip in behind it. They come with a handful of those with some screws. I won't be using those. But the important parts for me temporarily is this one comes with a power supply. Now if you're putting this in a vehicle, obviously you don't need 120 volt, but I'm using this while we're building, so this is a handy thing to have because it's a 12 volt light strip that I can plug into the wall. That means when we're done building, I just unplug this and plug in a 12 volt power supply. That comes to the control, so this comes with a control section here that takes the 12 volt power and converts it to what the LED strips need. And it also comes with, this is a pretty basic remote, it's just an IR remote. So this power supply adapter here receives the power and the signal from the remote and sends it out to the light strip. You don't need to buy all of these with it, but just beware if you're looking at the light strips. The least expensive ones are going to be the strip only. It does not come with a control module, it doesn't come with the wiring, and it doesn't come with any kind of adapters. So if you're looking at LED strips, make sure you're getting everything that you're going to need. Now that said, the cheapest ones may not come with the controls and all the accessories that you need, but you go to the other end of the spectrum and the most expensive ones don't either, because they're highly configurable so you can choose exactly which components you need. I mentioned that I wasn't going to be using those little plastic clips that come with the lights, and that's because I'm using the aluminum extrusion. This stuff gets attached to the ceiling or the wall or under the cabinet. You insert the LED strip into it, and then there's a clear plastic lens that comes with it that snaps over top. And that helps diffuse the light so you're not seeing the individual points of the LED light, and you see more of a blended single color light. Now those tracks do come with clips that you can use, so you can screw these little clips to the ceiling and then snap the tracks into them. I'm not going to use these, kind of like most of the accessories that came with the lights. I'm just going to use double-sided tape and stick them right onto the ceiling. But I think that's enough of that. Let's get to it. I'm now placing small tape markers 10 inches each side of center, so the light tracks will end up 20 inches apart and following the true center line. So what I plan to do here is I have this 2-inch strip of tape at the back. And I'm going to start my light strip from the edge of the 2-inch tape. So I have a 2-inch offset from the wall. Each of these strips, as I mentioned, is 39.5 inches long. So at the 39.5 inch mark, I put a piece of guide tape. And that's going to let me set the first piece straight, and then I'll pick up that edge of that piece and go to the next one, 39.5 inches away, and continue on forward. Now that does stop me a little bit short of the front, but that's exactly what I want because there's actually going to be a small cabinet here. And the lighting will run into the top of the cabinet, and that's where my electrical connections will be made. In order to stick the aluminum extrusion to the ceiling, I have prepped it with some 3M VHB tape. This is the leftover tape from when we installed the walls, which is why it's only a 1/4 inch wide. So I've just used 2 pieces. If I was doing this from scratch, I would have ordered 1/2 inch wide VHB tape. Now, an interesting note about VHB tape, VHB stands for very high bond. It is extremely strong, but it's a pressure sensitive adhesive. So when you stick these things together, you really need to push hard. It's not like an adhesive where it's contact and once it's touched, it's stuck. You do really need to push these together or they'll just fall apart again. So push it together. The harder you push it together and the longer you have them stuck together, the stronger the bond gets. Sticking the tracking on is dead easy. Peeling the backing off the tape takes more time than sticking them in place. It is key to make sure the joints are perfectly lined up, so an extra second or so before pressing them in place is worth it. It really is that easy to put these aluminum extrusions in for the LED lights using the VHB tape. There's no glue, there's no drilling holes, there's no clips. Just put the tape on the back and stick them up. With the extrusion in place, the next step is dead simple. Make sure you get the right end of the LED strip wiring. So in this case, the plug on the power supply is the female side. So I need to make sure I have the male side hanging out at this end. All it is from this point is basically peeling the pressure sensitive VHB tape backing off, making sure we start in the right place. And you want to get it as centered as you can in the LED. You want to get the LEDs as centered as you can in the strip. Now these channels are made for this, so it's kind of hard to get it wrong. But you do want to try to avoid, especially at any junction points, try not to have it where the circuit board touches the side, because these circuit boards are pretty thin. And we don't want any of the contacts at the edges from making contact with the aluminum channel. Now these do work a little bit counterintuitively. LED strips provide a constant ground to the, nope, sorry, I said that backwards. They provide a constant power to the LEDs. And then each of the different colors or white are grounded independently. And by varying, I would assume it's kind of varying the resistance on ground, you get different voltages. And that allows you to have different intensities of the different colors, which is where you can mix red, green, and blue to get whatever color outcome you want. Now, realistically, I don't care in here about having colors. We're really only using the white on this, but it's sometimes fun to have different colors, and these are the most common type. And the key with this type of LED strip, and I'll need to get a different tool in a second here, is, and check this with any of the ones that you purchase, you can cut them anywhere where you see one of these little terminals. So on this one, it's about every 3. So I can cut it here, I can cut it here, and that means I can cut it here, which is right at the end of the strip. So I'll cut it here, and then that strip will be done. And that basically leaves me with a bit of excess, which I can use somewhere else. I can throw that under a kitchen cabinet or inside one of the exterior cabinets, in the cab, anything. So to trim it here, really just get it as close to centered as you can on that strip. The second strip is as quick and simple as the first. Final step of the install is to put the lenses in. It's really easy, they just snap in. One thing I would recommend that you do before snapping the lenses in, and actually before sticking the strips in, I did this, I just didn't video it, is plug them in and test them. Take care on the connector. You'll see on one side there's likely a small little bump, and read your instructions because that is either going to line up with the black wire or whatever color is on the opposite side. Very important because it will plug in backwards and it will not work like that. So pay attention to that, plug them in, test them, stick them in, test them again. And the reason I say test them again is if somewhere along this strip you have made contact with the aluminum and it's grounded, you may get some lights that stay on when the light strip is turned off. So if you have that happening, you just got something touching somewhere. Let's get the caps on here and see what it looks like. The lenses slip in quite easily and if needed are as easy to take back out again. Quick little comparison, that is the lens installed, nice clean look, versus if you don't install the lens you can see all of the LEDs. May not matter to you, but if it doesn't matter to you, you're probably not using the channels, you're just going to stick them straight to the ceiling, which you can do. Let's turn them on and see what they look like. Now what I don't have at this point, I have to make a splitter cable because I'm running these two off of the one control, which is perfectly fine, but I need a Y harness, so I'll have to make that up. You could probably buy it as well. So let's start by taking a look at the difference between with the lens cover and without. When I plug this in here, I'm making sure I've got it the right way around. Get the pins in and plug it in. So with no cover on there, you can see the individual LEDs. It's not bad, you can still get plenty of light out of it, but you can see the individual LEDs. We can shift to the different colors here, red, green, blue, and then of course we can mix colors to get things like orange, purple. Not really what we're looking for, but it's there. So there's the white strip. Now let's switch over to the side with the lens. Again, making sure I plug it in the right way around. And you'll notice when we power it up here, I get that not quite in. That's there. There we go. So with the lens in, the lights blend together a lot more. So you get kind of more of a continuous strip of light. One thing to look for when you are looking for LED strips is how many LEDs there are per foot or inch or meter. Because the more you have in that distance, the less dark spaces you'll have in between. But again, the lens helps with that. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see what I've used here. Really simple install, highly recommend it. This is a quick way to get a decent amount of light. It's inexpensive and it's pretty straightforward. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Okay, calm down. Amazon just showed up with another box. Probably got a Y harness in it, so we can finish this properly. I was going to make a Y harness. I have most of the parts to do it, except for the wire. Now here's some good news. If you're south of the Canadian border and you have not been able to access any of the links I've been putting in there for the products, you now should be able to. I will be putting US Amazon links in there along with the Canadian ones, so check it out, and I appreciate anybody following those links. I have got the Y harness installed up top here. Make sure if you're installing a Y harness, you follow the same with the black wire lined up with the arrow. If that's what your lights say to do, same here, black lined up with the arrow. And then down here where the Y harness plugs into the control, the two arrows line up. That's everything for the install. We should now be ready to grab the remote and hit power. And that's it. We've got both light strips lit up. We've got the lenses on both sides. And I think that worked out pretty nicely. I really am a fan of these LED light strips and the extrusions that go with them. Really clean, easy way to do a lighting install. I think if you try this, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Ever wanted your own lightsaber? Woo woo, woo woo.